Andy and his son Andrew were at church yesterday with the Levites that show up, and Saturdays are incredible here. There's a women's event. There are men here trimming trees, and just phenomenal to see dads and sons serving next to each other. Take your Bible and look down at Exodus chapter 14. Here's what I want to do. I want to show you a scene at the Red Sea. I just want to spend 2 weeks titled Thanksgiving at the Red Sea. But what happens is at the other side of the Red Sea, after God parted the sea, absolute thanksgiving broke out. What I'm going to do is preach this backward, okay? And so I'm going to do chapter 15 today, and then next week you got to come read about the parting of the sea. Are you on board? Right? So you're going, didn't they teach you in preaching class, like to preach this stuff in order? They probably did, but I didn't go. So that's what we're going to do, is just preach these backward. Let me just show this to you. By the way, but before I jump into all that, just my heart was stirred as we were singing, Let the Church Say Amen. And what stands, I don't know if you're looking at the words as Jamie's seen that, what she's saying is that there's hope in our cities and things like that. And it's not that somehow things just get better in our cities. The cities in America right now are dark, and there is division. And the idea is this, that the church takes hold of the gospel and we spread the light of the gospel, and that in these darkened cities, in the darkest hour of America, the only thing we have to hold on to is the gospel of Jesus that brings men together and in our sinfulness forgives us, and that what we proclaim is the life-changing power of Jesus Christ. And that we're not, come it this way, we're not going to get better on our own. But what will happen is the power of God transforms lives. It takes people who are in prison. It takes people who are broken. It takes people who are messed up. And if you're messed up, you're welcome here. Amen. Well, Miss Shirley said, I don't know if you wanted me to say this, but Miss Shirley said, it's been 9 years since her husband, Marlo, died. I loved your husband. She said, Pastor, it's been 9 years, and I just want to tell you, he got saved. Am I getting this right? He got saved in prison. And she said, he said to the Lord, why keep me here if you're not going to do anything with me? And God made him a minister, and I see lives changed and all of that. And look, just so many good things. But I got to preach. So look down, Exodus, look at 14, just to kind of catch you up on what's going on. If you got a favorite place to do Thanksgiving, maybe it's back home. When I was growing up, my mom couldn't cook, so home was not our favorite place to have Thanksgiving, but Grandma's house was. Some of you, when you think Thanksgiving, think pilgrims, turkeys, Indians, I don't know, you're thinking, all kinds of stuff. Let me take you back earlier than pilgrims, Native Americans, take you back earlier than anything in America. Go all the way back to the Red Sea. There's a celebration there that is phenomenal. In Exodus 14, look at verse 11. Moses has gone to Pharaoh. He demanded that Pharaoh, as God had told him to do, he said to Pharaoh, thus says Yahweh, let my people go. And Pharaoh said, no. In fact, I'll make him work harder. And so God brought a series of plagues, 10 plagues on Egypt, until ultimately Pharaoh said, get out. The people rose up and they fled. As they're getting out of Egypt, Pharaoh goes, wait. What have I done? I just released all of our slaves. It says that he rose up with all of his chariots, and we'll look at all that next week, and he goes chasing after the people. The people look up and they see Pharaoh coming. On the other side is the Red Sea. They are hemmed in by an army coming and the natural blockage of the sea. And the people say to Moses in Exodus 14:11, they say, it says, is it because there's no graves in Egypt that you've taken us into the wilderness? That's a joke. There's graves everywhere in Egypt. They've got pyramids. They've got, everywhere you look, there's a grave. They go, really? You couldn't bury us there? You had to bring us out here to kill us? What's going on? Well, look what Moses says in verse 13. Fear not. Stand firm and see the salvation of Yahweh, which he will work for you today. In fact, he says the Egyptians you see today, take a good look at their faces. You're never going to see them again. And then he says this, Yahweh will what? Fight for you. You have only, what do they have to do? You have only to be silent. It's like Moses goes, just don't say anything. You guys, you mess this up. Joe, don't say anything. We know you're going to say something. You're going to mouth off to God and get us all killed. Just shut up and let God work. If you have a friend like that, like, don't say nothing, don't say nothing, don't say nothing. Well, now Yahweh says to Moses, verse 16, lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it, that the people of Israel may go through the sea on dry ground. Verse 21, you see it happen. Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and Yahweh drove the sea back with a strong east wind. Note the word night. This entire thing happens at nighttime. All that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. The people go through the Red Sea next week. They get to the other side, and when they get to the other side, God closes in on the Egyptians, and absolute thanksgiving erupts. It is unlike anything that happened at your grandma's house. It's unlike anything that happened in American history. Tambourines are broken out. People start celebrating, and it is a hallelujah hoedown. I mean, it is absolutely phenomenal. Let me just walk you through that and just kind of take some notes, and then carry these notes to your Thanksgiving table and just give thanks for some of these things. Maybe things that you might give thanks for. What do we got there? About 7-ish. Write this down. Number 1, I want you to give thanks for the changes God has made in you. Give thanks for the changes God has made in me. Look down at this song. It says in chapter 15, verse 1, Moses and the people sang this song to Yahweh. By the way, there's over 400 references in the Bible to singing. Over 50 times the Bible directly commands God's people to sing. 50 times! That's more times than the Bible says don't murder. That's more times than the Bible, it's like there's all these commands. Don't murder, oh, and sing. Don't commit adultery, oh, and sing. Over and over and over, the command of God's people is that we are a people so full of joy that erupting out of us is the song of our God. So here's the song. I will sing. The literal there, your translation says, I will sing to the Lord. Lord is Yahweh, but here it's an abbreviated form of Yahweh. It just says, I will sing to Yah. Yah is just, it's a form that's only used in poetry in the Bible. So it literally says in your Bible, I will sing to Yah. I'll sing to Yahweh. He has what? Triumphed gloriously. The horse and the rider, what did he do to them? I'm getting this out the Bible. You see it? He threw them into the sea. What stood out to me is one moment these people are complaining. They go, oh, there are not enough graves in Egypt. In fact, they say to Moses, why didn't you just leave us alone? And now on the other side, God has done not only a change in the sea, not only a change to the Egyptians, but something has changed in their hearts. They're different. And I think we could look at one another. And the way Christianity is supposed to work is you look back and you go, I'm not who I was. Wasn't that what David Hale said? I'm not who I was. Isn't that what Marlo would say? I'm not who I was. Am I right? And I would hope that this Thanksgiving, I'm not going to start calling you guys out, but am I right? Brian, you're not who you are, right? Sherry, he's not who he was, right? Yeah. This is a weird thing to give thanks for, but I just want you to pause and think, where was I? And what did God do for me? One moment, you look back and you go, look where I was. Had a friend who called me, answered the call, and he said, I just want to tell you, I am so angry. Would you pray for me? I said, yeah. He said, wait. This is what you got to know. This is a big step for me. In the past, I would have punched somebody in the face, not called my pastor and called you from jail to bail me out. The change is I'm mad, but now I'm reaching out for help. So just think, how has God changed me? And then write this down. Number 2, give thanks for his salvation. There was a time, a specific time, if you're a follower of Jesus, that God reached down and he rescued you, that you were headed to hell and you were headed to separation from God, but God in his grace shed his blood for you and he saved you. That's the theme of the Red Sea. In fact, the Red Sea, the entire narrative is what we call typology. Typology is something in the Old Testament that shows a picture of Jesus to come. And so it's a type of Christ. The book of Hebrews uses types all the time. And here's everything about how the Red Sea is like a picture of what Jesus did for you. 1 Corinthians, what is that? 1 Corinthians chapter 10, about verse 2, describes this scene as a scene of salvation. It's like this. You were a slave to sin. Am I right? You were a slave and you were in bondage, and it wasn't Pharaoh, it was Satan that was over you. But God sent his son and did for you what you could not do for yourself. He freed you from sin, not with the blood of a lamb on a Passover night, but he freed you with the blood of his son, put over the doorpost of your life, and he set you free. And you came out and you went through the Red Sea. That is Jesus' death for you. And on one side is slavery, and after you accepted Christ, what was on the other side? Freedom. And the idea is that God rescued you. Have you ever just paused and said, God, thank you for rescuing me? Chapter 14, verse 13 says, you will see the salvation of the Lord. Chapter 14, verse 30 says, Yahweh saved Israel that day. And then look down there at verse 2 of chapter 15. The Lord, here's the song they sing, the Lord is my strength and my song. He has become my salvation. By the way, look at that next verse down there at verse 3. Nobody's gonna, and I'm only pointing this out because nobody's gonna get excited about this verse except a bunch of Marines, okay? So in other churches they go, oh yeah, but watch, this is cool. What is Yahweh? Yahweh's what? A man of war. Oorah. I don't know many people get excited about the warlike nature of our God, but understand what God is saying when he says there are some things that, and you guys, something in your souls, just as warriors, identify with this, that there are some things so wrong in this world that though we want to stand back, we want to be men and women of peace, there are some things so wrong, we will fight to our death to stop them. There are some things we love so much that I cannot be passive. When it says Yahweh is a man of war, what it says is God is not passive toward you. God will fight for you. And what God did is he went to that cross. You've done that, right? You've got stuff worth fighting for. That's why you parents are a pain on the soccer field. Anyway, what did Jesus do on that cross? He went to that cross and he made war for you. Because Yahweh's a man of war. And he made war with sin. He made war with Satan. And he parted that sea and rose again. Verse 4, Pharaoh's chariots, his army, his officers, he cast them into the sea. He sunk them. Literally, it says at verse 5, deep covers them and they went down in the depths like a stone. Right? Can I just point out, God's wrath is not like human anger. God's wrath is his hatred of sin. In fact, it says this, your right hand, the word right hand is used over 50 times in the Bible. Just reference after, that is the strength of God. Psalm 44 verse 3 says, the right arm of the Lord brings victory. Psalm 45 verse 4 says, God's right hand displays awesome deeds. God's right hand is filled with righteousness. My soul clings to the right hand of the Lord. Well, here he says this, your right hand is glorious in power. And what does it do? It shatters the enemy. It's not like good and evil are equal forces fighting one another. There is nothing that can stand against our God. What Jesus did on the cross is he shattered the enemy on your behalf. He crushed him. Now, what I want you to do before we take the Lord's Supper and before you head to Thanksgiving is I just want for you to take a moment and think back to the day Jesus saved you. And it may feel for some of you like, wow, it's incredible. Jesus had to get down to jail to rescue me. I was in prison. And others of you, you're like, it didn't really seem like that big a deal because I was in Awana, I was 6. But can I tell you, no matter how old you were when you got saved, no matter where you were, it was a war. And an enemy was defeated. And those of you that got saved when you were children, you don't have a lesser testimony. In some ways, you have a better testimony. Amen? Well, write this down. Not only give thanks this week for the changes God made in you and for the salvation that he gave to you, but number 3, for victories that should have been defeats. There have just been some moments in your life that you look back, you go, there's no way I should have made it through that. Have any of those? Just take a moment as I share. Just kind of think, have there ever been times in my life when I look back and go, oh, I don't know how I made it. I don't know how our marriage made it. I don't know how I made it financially. I don't know. I look back and I should have been destroyed. But somehow there was a guiding hand that looked after me, that guarded after me, that I didn't even know where it came from. That was the Lord guarding after you. And maybe without the Lord, your marriage wouldn't have made it. Maybe without the Lord, you wouldn't have survived that car crash. Maybe, what is it David Hale said? David in that testimony said, I went back, I looked at my car, and I didn't know how I lived because everything in the car was destroyed except the seat I was in. How's that possible? Answer, that's not possible except there's a God. And that God with his mighty right hand reached down and covered that seat and protected him. Now you can look at David. Isn't it easier to see it in other people's story? But I'll bet there's been some moments where the right hand of God protected you. And I just want for you to personalize that. What have been the moments in your life that God rescued you? Look at this. It says in verse 7, in the greatness of your majesty, you overthrow our adversaries. In fact, it says you sent your fury. And it consumed, the next line is interesting. It's what we call divine retribution. How does God consume them with his fury? Like stubble. That's divine retribution because the Hebrews were forced by the Egyptians. The Pharaoh made them go collect stubble. Remember that? So what does God do? He now consumes the enemy like stubble. Verse 8. At the blast of your nostrils, the waters piled up. Can you do that? I don't think you can. The floods stood up in a heap. The deeps, that's the waters. What happened to the waters there in verse 8? What is the word that's used? The waters what? Congealed. Do you know what congealed means? The closest we have in our vernacular, in our world, is that's what happens, and this so lowers the text, so just bear with me, okay? But you'll get it. Congealed is what Jell-O does, right? You take something, you guys had Jell-O? Did you guys grow up in America? Man, you take that liquid and you put it in and what does it do? It congeals. It becomes, that which was liquidy becomes not quite solid, but that's what happened there at the Red Sea, is somehow that water transformed after it was parted. In fact, Job 10:10 describes it, uses that same word, congealed, like curdling cheese. Congealed is what happens when a rattlesnake bites you. The reason it's dangerous is it changes your blood. The venom in the rattlesnake poison changes your blood, and your blood begins to congeal. It's no longer liquidy, but it begins to become, I don't know, jello-y. But this is cool. It is as if God struck the Red Sea with the venom of his justice, and it congealed like a, look at this. The enemy said, what's the enemy say? There's a bunch of verbs here. The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide their spoil. I'll draw my sword, my hand will destroy them. In other words, the mighty armies of Pharaoh looked and said, we're going to kill you, you don't have a chance. And God goes, yeah, they don't, but watch me. You don't have a chance against that car accident. Your marriage doesn't have a chance. Your finances don't have a chance, but you've got a God. And that God on your behalf acts. And it says, what did God do in verse 10? God, I like this. He blew wind. He just went, whew. Now here's what I love. Pharaoh comes up with all this. I'm gonna. And God goes, yeah. Whew. Right? He just blows wind. Can I just say to you that God rescuing you isn't even hard for God. He's not in heaven stressed. He blew wind and it covered them and they sank like lead. It's just wind. There have been some moments in your life that should have been defeats. Am I right? And God rescued you. It wasn't even hard for him. You just pause this thing. You might write them down. People go, what are you thankful for? And everybody's going to go, oh, I'm thankful for family. Yeah, it's good to be thankful for family. But why don't you go, hey, I'm thankful for the time. And you share with your family a time that God rescued you. And then number 4, give thanks for his transcendence. Is what, Pastor? His transcendence. It is the uniqueness. You can just write uniqueness if you want. It is the unique nature of God that means there's no one else like the Lord. You ever just paused and said, I'm so glad I know the Lord because there's no one like the Lord. It says this in verse 11. Who's like you, O Lord? Among the gods, there's no one like the Lord. Who's like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in glorious deeds, doing wonders? Today it's not popular to say, theologically, it's not popular to say that one way is better than another. And what's happened is the church today has become afraid to boldly say that Christ is all, and the result is mediocre Christianity. But let's be clear. What is it Imran just sang? We give you the highest praise. Remember that song? We give you the highest praise. And I hear today in Christianity a lot of talk about what we call the sufficiency of Christ. The sufficiency of Christ means that Christ was all sufficient on your behalf to save you. But to be clear, the Bible does not just talk about a sufficient God, like he can get you through, he's enough. It's not just that Jesus is enough, it's that he's all. And that's different. He's not just sufficient, he's supreme. He is excellent. Or if I can put it this way, you don't just worship an A-OK God, you worship an almighty, glorious God who is unlike anything else. So the idea at the Red Sea is supposed to be this, that after the sea has come back down on the Egyptians, you can do an evaluation. There are the Egyptians who worshiped the gods of the Egyptians, and they drowned in the sea. And there are the Hebrews standing here who have been rescued. And now you look up and you say, wow, there's no one like the Lord. None of the gods of Egypt could do that. The Lord is completely different. And that's still true. Well, write this down. Number 5, what am I going to give thanks for? Not only give thanks for the changes he made in me, I give thanks for his salvation. I give thanks for victories that should have been defeats. I give thanks for his transcendence. And number 5, I give thanks for his leadership in difficulty. That God led me. You ever have a difficult day and God just leads you through that mess? Some of you are in a difficult hour right now. And you just need someone to say to you that you can trust the Lord. You can trust the Lord, whatever you're going through. Look at verse 12. It begins to describe the leadership of God over his people. You stretched out your right hand, and the earth, I like this line. What did the earth do to the Egyptians? If you remember, Aaron threw down his staff and it became a serpent, and then the magicians Pharaoh threw down their staffs and they became magicians, or they became snakes, and Aaron's staff swallowed the magician's staff. Do you remember that? Say you do. Oh, I feel better. You at least saw the movie, right? No, you read. Well, here it's not a staff that swallowed, but the entire army. He swallowed them. It says in verse 13, now what does he do? It says, you led. Now, how does God lead us? This is so important to your life right here. You led in your steadfast love. Hey, church, God will never give you a command that doesn't come out of his loving nature. Everything God has told you is not because he's mean or hateful, that he's just driving up rules for you, but every command he's given you is because he's leading you out of steadfast love, because he cares for you. You led in steadfast love. Verses 14 to 16 are now prophetic. They look ahead. God's taking, he didn't just get us through the Red Sea and say, okay, guys, good luck, go at it. Because some people think I got saved, I did the saved thing, and now I'm done with the Lord. And the Lord says, no, we were just getting started. We've got all the promised land yet to take. And your walk with Jesus isn't something that happened. It's something you do to the day you die when you step into glory and walk with him forever. Look at these prophecies. It says, the people have heard. That's the people of Canaan. Word's going to get out what happened. People have heard, and they tremble. It says, Pang seized the Philistines. They're scared. If a God can do that, how are we going to stand up to them? It says the chiefs of Edom are dismayed. There's trembling in Moab. Canaan melted in fear. Look at verse 16. It says terror, dread fell upon them. Remember when Joshua sent the spies in and Rahab went into the spies and she said, you got to know we're all scared. We heard what happened at the Red Sea. And we don't know how we're going to stand up to a God that can part the sea. He'll knock our wall down. There's nothing that said that this God's leading you. I like this line, though. Terror and dread fall upon them because of the greatness of your arm. They are a stone till your people that you purchased pass by. Now, I just noted the word, and I underlined the word purchase, because that's what Jesus did for them, is Jesus purchased them, and that's what Jesus did for you, is he purchased you, not with lamb's blood, but with his blood. Now, notice this, because this is cool. He's not just leading them out in the wilderness. He's leading them somewhere. Look at verse 17. You will bring them, all these people. You took them out of the Red Sea, and he doesn't say good luck, but he's taking them somewhere. You will bring them and plant them on your own mountain. What is the mountain of God? Well, he's not talking there about Sinai, and that becomes clear in a moment because it talks about the sanctuary of God. The sanctuary of God sits on Jerusalem. It's a place called Zion. And here's the, I'll read it to you first. You will bring them and plant them on your mountain, on Jerusalem. It talks about on your abode. You bring them to your abode, to your sanctuary. Here's the idea. It is as if God reaches from heaven and he parts the sea. And now suddenly he stands on the mountain of Jerusalem, where one day the temple will be, where one day the people will come every day to worship, where the sanctuary of God and the Ark of the Covenant will stand. It's as if he's already standing at the Holy of Holies, and he's just directing them all the way through the wilderness. Come here, come here. No, don't turn that way. Turn this way. Go, march around that wall there. Come here, come here. And he's moving the nation. They're saying someday God's going to get us to himself. And what God is doing is from the Red Sea on is he's leading them to himself. That's what God's doing in your life. What's God doing in my life? God is leading me to a deeper walk with him. God is leading me to know him better. Everything about God. You ever just give thanks to God for the leadership in your life? Because usually we're kind of resistant. God, why didn't you send more money? God, why did you make me go through that relationship? God, why did you? And God goes, wait. We got to fight some battles in Canaan, and we got to go through some Jerichos, but all I'm doing from the Red Sea on, from the moment you were saved, is I'm just bringing you closer and closer to myself. That's good, isn't it? Is that what God did for you? Well, write this down also. You give thanks, not only for all those things, but give thanks. We don't give thanks for this one often, for his reign. R-E-I-G-N, his reign. Got to tell you that because in 29 Palms, we get excited about rain. Like, rain! Praise God! This means his rulership over all the earth. We don't thank God very often that he's just absolutely, you ever just thank God that he's absolutely in charge? This Thanksgiving, would you just pause and at some point in your week say, God, I'm so thankful you're in charge, that you rule the earth. In fact, I'm thankful I'm not in charge. You've probably never thanked God for that because you've got suggestions to offer the Almighty. One of the most frustrating things about God is that he rules from a throne and doesn't ask us what he should do. There's no suggestion box on the throne of God. God, I got an idea. Here you go. God has never paused in ruling the universe and went, hey, Dave, what do you think? Well, I got some ideas. But can I just say to you, thank God I'm not in charge. Amen? Oh, hold on. Thank God Jimmy Pritchett's not in charge. Amen. Yeah. Thank God Barrett's not in charge. Amen. DJ, you do okay, but not as good as him, right? Amen. You got a God who, look at this. Yahweh, verse 18, how does that song end? It says, Yahweh will reign forever and ever. And there's supposed to be something stirred in your heart about the forever and everness of God. That is, he's not a good king who came, but then he died and they buried him. But you've got a God who reigns high and exalted, and his rulership will go and go from this generation to the next generation. And as you know the Lord, your children can know the Lord. And all generations will know the Lord. In fact, if you kill this king, he'll simply rise again, because he will reign forever and ever. Well, one last thing. It's this. Look at all those. You give thanks for any of those. Just kind of, maybe you're not do all 7, but I just want for you to circle some that you're going to give thanks for this Thanksgiving. Take it to your Thanksgiving table. You give thanks for the changes he made in you. You give thanks for his salvation. Give thanks for the victories that should have been defeats. Give thanks that there's no one like the Lord. You give thanks for the moments that he led you, and life was hard, but he was bringing you closer to himself. Give thanks for his reign. Ready for the last one? No, you're not. Give thanks for dirt. Give thanks for dirt. Like 29 Palms. Now we're talking. This isn't part of, look at verse 19. It's not part of the song, but I want you to grab it. When the horses of Pharaoh and his chariots and his horsemen went into the sea, they go chasing after the Israelites. Yahweh brought back the waters of the sea upon them, and the people of Israel What happened to the people of Israel? I love this scene. It says the people of Israel walked on dry ground in the midst of the sea. In fact, it says 3 times that they walked on the dry ground. I love that. That dry ground is like a love note from God, because he didn't just part the sea. Ancient people are terrified of water. And God says, look, I'm not just going to part the sea. I'll dry the ground. There won't even be a puddle. You've got nothing to fear. I'll take care of you. You know, just think, and here's what I mean when I say thank God for the dry ground. The little details in life, that it's not just that God saved you from the car wreck, but he provided food this week. Just the little stuff in life. You ever pause and thank him for those? Because this is such an amazing miracle. The sea rises up, it congeals the waters. You can almost smell it in the text. It's phenomenal. But look, God doesn't have a planning committee for miracles. He just does this on his own. If I was on the planning committee for miracles, I would have forgotten about the dirt. Amen, wouldn't you? I would have gotten everybody out there. They step out, just sink right there. Aren't you glad you've got a God that thinks of every detail of your life? Hey, Jesus says, come to me. I take care of birds. I care about dirt. I'll take care of you. And sometimes you need to be reminded of this. The God who made the galaxies also made the cell. And the God of the mountains is also the God of the sand particles. The God who moves nations sees you. And he cares about dirt, just the little stuff in your life. You ever feel kind of bad praying for something small? Other than traffic. I know you all pray about traffic, okay? But you ever just feel kind of silly praying for something small? God, I lost this thing. You probably pray about that too. There's these little stuff, they're like, I don't know if God really cares about that. And sometimes you just need to be reminded that you've got a God that cares about everything. You've got a God that cares about you. Because he cares about you, he cares about the dirt. Just the stuff in your life, that the daily stresses of life. Well, look back down at those. You take a moment and just kind of think, because I don't know that you can grab all 7 and go to the Thanksgiving table with them, because they might hate you at Thanksgiving. But hey, you parents, you might divide these up. You're going to give thanks for this, and you just look at those. You think about some changes God made in you. Maybe you this Thanksgiving just want to thank God for your salvation, that God rescued you. Maybe you want to give thanks for those victories. You look back and you say, I should have lost. We should have lost the home. We should have lost the marriage. I should have lost my life, but somehow God saved me by his mighty right hand. And I just thank you this Thanksgiving. Maybe you want to just thank him for being him. That you just pause this Thanksgiving. You say, Lord, there's no one like you. And my whole heart worships you. We give you the highest praise. You just pause this Thanksgiving and give it. Or maybe you want to give him thanks for his leadership in difficulty. That God, when life got really hard, you never gave up on me, but you just kept leading me to yourself. You give thanks for his reign. Aren't you glad he reigns and Washington doesn't? Or maybe you want to give thanks for the dirt. Here's what I know about what God did for you. He cares about every aspect of your life. But there is a big thing that we're supposed to hold on to. And that is that he purchased you with his blood. And what we're going to do is we're going to sing, and we're going to take the Lord's Supper. And the Lord's Supper is the reminder that we were purchased with blood. And the reason we put Lord's Supper right before Thanksgiving is this is the right way to enter Thanksgiving week, is with gratitude. It's with gratitude. To focus your hearts on what God has done for you.
Thank you for listening to the sermon. For further information or to get in contact with our church's ministries, please visit us at palmsbaptistchurch.com.